This simple crop killed over 1 million people and helped build the modern world. It fed empires, caused revolutions, and nearly collapsed entire nations. And it all started in one of the most unlivable places on Earth, the Andes, where the air is thin, the ground freezes every night, and nothing should survive, except one plant that changed everything. 8,000 years ago, people in ancient Peru found this wild, bitter tuber. It was small, bitter, even mildly toxic, and most animals refused to eat it. The plant belonged to the nightshade family, relatives of deadly belladonna and Jimson weed. But ancient Andean people saw something others could not: extraordinary potential. They began selecting, replanting, and saving the best tubers every season. They chose the least toxic, the most nutritious, the most productive plants. Generation after generation, the bitter wild plant became something truly remarkable. This process, called domestication, took thousands of years of accumulated human knowledge. It was not invention, it was an intimate, slow conversation with the natural world.
By 3000 BCE, the potato was already a cornerstone of Andean civilization. The terraces themselves were feats of engineering that still stand 4,000 years later. But the early potato wasn't simply eaten, it was engineered for long-term survival. Andean farmers invented something the world had never seen: freeze-dried food. They called it chuño, and it was one of the greatest food technologies ever created. Potatoes were left outside overnight to freeze under the brutal mountain cold. At dawn, farmers walked across them barefoot, squeezing out every drop of water. This cycle was repeated for days until only a dry, lightweight husk remained. Chuño could be stored in underground chambers for 10, even 20 years. It fed armies in war and kept entire communities alive through years of drought. No other civilization on Earth had solved long-term food storage at this altitude. The Inca Empire, established in 1438, built its power partly on the potato. Their road network stretched 25,000 miles across the entire continent. Hidden chuño warehouses along every route kept the entire empire running without failure. Potatoes were so vital they were woven into Inca religion and ritual practice. Archaeologists found potato designs on Andean pottery going back over 2,000 years. The Inca even used potatoes as a unit of time, measuring hours by how long they took to cook. The potato wasn't just food, it was the foundation of an entire civilization. Then, in 1532, everything in the Andes changed forever. Spanish conquistadors landed in Peru, searching not for food, but for gold. They brought down the largest empire in the Americas in less than 2 years. But among the spoils of conquest, something entirely unremarkable caught no one's attention. The potato arrived in Spain around 1570, and Europe wanted nothing to do with it. Europeans feared it, priests condemned it, peasants called it the devil's apple. It grew underground, and many believed that was proof of something sinister. In England, farmers called it a Catholic plot. No potatoes, no popery was their slogan. France had 40 nationwide famines between 1500 and 1800, more than one per decade. Into this world of hunger stepped a man named Antoine Augustin Parmentier.
Parmentier was a pharmacist captured by Prussian forces during the 7 Years' War. For months in captivity, his only food was potatoes, and he stayed completely healthy. He returned to France with a mission to convince his nation to eat this humble tuber. But French aristocrats would not touch a food eaten by prisoners and pigs. So Parmentier devised a plan, one of history's most brilliant acts of reverse psychology. He planted a royal potato field and surrounded it with armed guards during the day. At night, the guards were quietly ordered to stand down and look the other way. If the king guards it, the people reasoned, it must be worth having. The trick worked. Within a generation, France was planting potatoes across the nation. Across Europe, the same transformation was unfolding, one desperate country at a time. Prussia's Frederick the Great ordered his peasants to plant potatoes by royal decree. By the 1700s, the potato was quietly ending centuries of European famine. One historian argued the potato helped fuel the rise of the entire Western world. By feeding larger populations, the potato gave European empires the manpower to expand. The same vegetable that fed the Inca now fed the armies that conquered the world. But overdependence on a single crop would soon become a catastrophic mistake. In 1845, a microscopic water mold called Phytophthora infestans crossed the Atlantic. It moved across Europe like a shadow, destroying crops faster than farmers could respond. In Ireland, where the poor ate almost nothing else, the devastation was total. The blight spread from field to field, county to county, in a matter of weeks. Families who had eaten potatoes 3 times a day suddenly had nothing at all. The British government's response was largely indifferent and widely considered genocidal. Over 1 million Irish people died of starvation and disease in 4 years. 2 million more packed onto ships and fled across the Atlantic, never to return. Ireland's population, which was 8 million before the famine, has never fully recovered. The famine was a warning, one the modern world is still learning to hear. When Colorado beetles began destroying potato crops across Europe and America, panicked farmers turned to the world's first mass-use chemical pesticide, arsenic. The potato had inadvertently launched the entire modern chemical agriculture industry. Meanwhile, back in the Andes, thousands of potato varieties had survived untouched. While Europe grew one variety to exhaustion, the Andes held 4,000 in reserve. Each Andean variety had evolved different defenses, tolerances, and nutritional profiles. Some could survive frost, some resisted drought, some thrived in waterlogged soil. Today, over 4,000 varieties still grow across their original Andean homeland. Scientists now believe this diversity is our greatest insurance against future food collapse. Climate change threatens traditional grain crops across every continent on Earth. But many Andean potato varieties already survive conditions that would destroy modern crops. One Peruvian farmer named Julio Hanco Mamani preserves over 400 native varieties. Each variety carries its own name, its own flavor, its own survival story. Scientists travel from around the world to study what this one farmer has preserved. The International Potato Center in Lima holds over 5,000 varieties in cold storage. It is one of the most important biological archives in the history of human civilization. The potato is now the world's fourth largest crop after wheat, rice, and corn. Over 1 billion people eat potatoes as a major part of their diet every single day. And the world's largest potato consumer isn't Europe or America, it's China. The ancient terraces are still there, cut into the Andes by hands long gone. The wild potato still flowers between the rocks at 13,000 feet above sea level. Every potato on Earth, every chip, every fry, every bowl of mash began here. 8,000 years of patience, intelligence, and care held in a single root. The people who gave the world this gift never received any credit for it. Their terraces fed the Inca, their technique fed Europe, their diversity may feed the future. 8,000 years ago, someone knelt in frozen Andean soil and planted a future. They had no idea what they were starting, but the world owes them everything.